everybody. Welcome to Goodison Park, Norwich City, taking on Everton here today at Merseyside. We're a few minutes away from the team news. You can see the away end there. Around 1,600 Norwich City fans have made the trip up to the northwest today to try and watch Norwich City get their first point or points of the Premier League campaign. Joined by Paddy Davitt, who's sat next to me. Pad, I think after the Arsenal debacle, we won't proclaim to be experts in the area of team news, but how do you see Daniel Farke playing this today?
That was a one-off, Connor. I think, I hope so anyway. I think he'll go experience today, to be brutally honest. I think everything he was talking about yesterday to me smacked of, maybe Gibson coming in alongside Kabak. I think he'll come straight back in. And obviously Hanley, he was very staunch in his defence of Grant Hanley. So I think it'll be those three. I think it still will be the three. Because although the result would suggest different against Liverpool in midweek, I think he felt, in terms of the game and restricting Liverpool and getting them the right side of the ball, having made such a play of defensively after Watford, they need to be better. I think he'll persist with the three. So I can see that. And then for me, I think Sargent, he was very strong on Sargent yesterday. I see him, given he's over his fitness issues, he'll come in alongside Pookie or retain, should I say, the partnership they started to build against Watford. And then it's just the interesting one is the three across the middle of the park. Norman, I think, is a shoo-in, given again he's over his fitness issues. And it's just 2 from 3 for me out of McLean, Rupp and Billy Gilmore. So, yeah, I think ultimately, Connor, I think he's going to look to go a little bit more experienced today and maybe hope that the more experienced players will be able to handle the situation as it is at the minute.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can see a back three today and Daniel Farke position that. We've actually just seen him do his pre-match media. He's wandered around to kind of where, bizarrely, Norwich are kind of based. It seems like in a dressing room kind of in the opposite corner to the stand we're sitting in, which is pretty much exactly next to the Norwich fans. So Daniel Farke has just had a nice bit of applause from those who are in. There's a few yellow shirts in at the moment. Of course, we're an hour away from kickoff, so still plenty of time for them to get in. We shall see how this Norwich City team lines up in a minute or so. Pad, again, to cut across you, we obviously had the incident with Christos Schollis earlier this week in that Carabao Cup tie. Do you see Daniel Farke awarding him a place in the starting lineup today? I guess if Norwich do go for the free, then he's in a difficult situation, isn't he, in terms of getting into that side?
Yeah, no, I don't see him coming back in today because that's no reflection on the guy. I thought, separating the whole penalty incident, his overall performance, I thought was a very positive step forward. So he's definitely, for me, pushing and pushing and pushing. But for today in the 11, no, I don't see that. What a story it would be if he was to come off the bench and maybe decide this game in Norwich's favour. That'd just be how football works sometimes. But no, I don't. I think Sargent's the one. I think Sargent showed enough for Daniel, at least, given what he said yesterday, that he unlocks a little bit of Timu Pukki and almost having another body up there and maybe taking the attention away a little bit from defenders, focusing solely on Timu. So, no, Pukki and Sargent for me in that top third of the pitch. And obviously, we're talking about Jolis, but no Rashid.
Sorry, Pat. I'll cut across you there. You can see the Norwich team rolling across the bottom of your screen now, just to give that to you. It is a back three for Norwich City this afternoon. They're lining up with Tim Krul in goal, a back three of Kabak, Grant Hanley, the captain, and Ben Gibson. Aaron's the right wing back, Brandon Williams the left wing back. A midfield three of Matthias Norman, Pierre Lace-Malou, and Kenny McLean. And a front two of Josh Sargent and Timu Pukki. The subs bench for Norwich this afternoon: Angus Gunn, Lucas Rook, Billy Gilmore, Kieran Dow, Milo Rashica, Christos Schollis, Dimitris Yannoulis, Adam Ida, and Andrew Omabamidele. So that's Norwich City team. 2 changes from the side that lost to Watford last weekend, although a completely different shape as you can see. I'll just pass the various team sheets down that have just arrived in our direction, and you can see that on Pad's screen. And I'll run through the Everton team for you. They've got Jordan Pickford in goal, who does make it despite some fitness concerns. Michael Keane, Allen, Damari Gray, Lucas Digne captains the side, Yerry Mina, Andros Townsend, Abdubai Kore, Alex Iwobi, Ben Godfrey, and Salomon Rondon. A bench that includes 2 goalkeepers for Everton this afternoon: Asmir Begovic and Andy Lonergan, both named on the subs bench. John Joe Kenny, Mason Holgate, Anthony Gordon, Tom Davis, Jared Braithwaite, Ellis Sims, and Lewis Dobbin, the bench for them. So, Pad, I think much has been made of Everton's injury. It's quite a few sort of options on the bench for Norwich City, probably the way we expected. A three at the back, an experienced midfield three, and a front two that displayed plenty of promise last week against Watford.
Yeah, I think we probably teed it up, Connor, and the only imponderable I had has been answered, and it's Billy Gilmore out. Just double checking that. Yeah, in fact, I don't see. Yeah, there he is on the bench. Sorry. Yeah, so he's gone McLean, Lise Malou, and Norman. That might divide opinion a little bit, but certainly again, if you put that alongside the three defensively he's gone for, Kabak, less so because of his age, but certainly the level he's been playing at with Hanley and Gibson, it just screams we need to go a little bit more experienced and a bit more maybe streetwise in terms of those two trios in that team. And yeah, Sargent alongside Pookie, I think we expected that. Williams needs to be better than he was against Watford. But I still thought he would edge Giannoulis because I think Giannoulis defensively was still suspect again. Did a lot of nice things against Liverpool, I thought, going forward, but still concerns, I think, me anyway, without the ball. And as a result, if you're trying to be a lot more solid and try and build from a base of, not conceding 2 and 3 every game, then it's still Williams over Giannoulis at that left wing-back area as it is today. But certainly Williams needs to kick on, and I want to see more of the Arsenal Brandon Williams than the one we saw against Watford. But that's an intriguing mix now in terms of the central three defenders. If they perform individually and collectively today, that might be it for the foreseeable, because he's been striving for a partnership defensively and hasn't as yet found one, certainly a robust, reliable one. So Hanley needs to step up. I think Daniel's comments, which we carried on the Pinkin earlier today, underlines the point. He's had a poor week, I think it's safe to say, culpable for quite a lot of the goals they conceded, or at least involved in the goals they've conceded. And for your captain and one of your most experienced players, you need a little bit more, I think. And looking for a decent performance from him. And for Gibson as well, back in the Premier League lineup, he needs to maybe show that time out has allowed him to reflect a little bit, that he's hungry to stamp his mark. Because ultimately, Ben Gibson, we don't know if he's Premier League grade. What we know is he's good enough for the Championship and better probably than Championship level. But is he good enough for the Premier League? And that is a question you could lay at a lot of those Norwich defenders. So, that is what it is. I'll be interested to see maybe what the social reaction is. But defensively, it feels a bit stronger, certainly in terms of the experience levels. But I'd still have a little concern maybe that midfield three. Is there enough creativity for me to link to a Sargent and a Pookie? But obviously the onus there in this system is on Max Aarons and Brandon Williams on either flank to maybe offer that support, because I don't think I see too much. I mean, McLean can do that and break forward, but that looks a bit more of a solid three in midfield rather than what they possibly could create with the ball.
Yeah, and you look at the midfield too that Everton are going to have. It looks like a 4-2-3-1 as he's sort of scrolling across your screen. Ben Godfrey playing as a makeshift right back, it looks like today. But you kind of compare the respective midfields. Everton have Allen and Decore, which is a pretty physical midfield for Norwich City to contend with this afternoon. And you've got Kenny McLean, Lace Malou and Norman. So Daniel Barker does opt for experience over perhaps maybe a youngster like Billy Gilmore, who has been, was certainly the pick of the bunch from a Norwich City perspective on Tuesday, although that probably wasn't hard given the relative performances of everyone else, and also looked a bit more comfortable against Watford. So are you surprised, Pad, that he's been dropped out, or do you think this is kind of Daniel Farker adapting to the situation in terms of putting plenty of experience in there? Norman obviously brings muscle. Kenny McLean can do that as well. It's going to be, you'd expect a physical battle in there today with the two defensive midfielders that Everton have.
Yeah, and I think if that is the game that you feel is going to develop, and Benitez, let's be honest as well, inevitably the focus on here is on Norwich, but they're coming off the back of a very poor result against Villa in the Premier League, got beat 3-0 and then gone out in the League Cup. He's made changes, obviously, as most teams, Premier League teams, would have done in midweek, but still, it just adds to that sense that after a bright start and all the circus that accompanies Benitez crossing Stanley Park, given his success at Liverpool, he must feel that he'll need a result today. So I think they're going to look to try and, as Daniel said yesterday, be very circumspect and pragmatic, as is the want of a Rafa Benitez side normally. And if that is the case, Norwich need to certainly stay in the game. And what I like is actually, if they're in the game, if this mix in terms of the three across midfield and three behind them offers that solidity, and Norwich are in the game at 60, 75 minutes, you look down the Norwich bench and you've got, Rashica, Zolis, Adamida, even Kieran Dowell, who'd be desperate to, impress back on his old turf today. I'm sure if he got an opportunity. There are potential game concluders, if that's the right phrase. Probably not, but certainly if the game is level and Norwich are bang in the game, then there's attacking potential on that Norwich bench. And I would imagine if you're Daniel Farke with that 11 that he selected, that's what he's hoping. That's the scenario that plays out, that they aren't out of the game as they probably were at Carrow Road around the 75-minute mark, certainly by the 80-minute mark when Watford got their third goal the other day. But it's about being far more robust without the ball, defensively far more stronger, and just being competitive. I think ultimately what it boils down to, keep using that word a lot at the minute in the midst of this very poor results-wise start. They need to be far more competitive, and it's not good enough to do it for 15, 20 minutes in a game. We need a whole game where they look like they can compete at this level. Whether that then is subsequently good enough to go on and achieve their objectives, time will tell. But right now, you couldn't really, realistically, even say they're competitive for the length of time they need to be in games to get results. So that's probably stamped through his team selection today, because he's gone for maybe more, arguably you would say, reliable, what you get type options with a Hanley, a Gibson, even Lys Malou, very experienced, if not in England, but certainly in terms of his football career. Kenny McLean, very experienced now player. And he clearly has put those type of players into his 11 to ensure that Norwich are competitive and in this game. And then if they are, as I say, he has young attacking talent who could come on and maybe, given as well, I think a factor worth reiterating, Everton coming off the back of 2 poor results. If this home crowd sense that the game's in the balance at 60-75, in my experience, they won't be shy of telling Benitez and telling the home players. And if there is a bit of fractiousness around the place, then they might become a little bit hesitant, those blue players on the pitch, blue shirt players. And I love then in that scenario to see a Zolis get the ball and run at Everton defenders or Rashica. So, yeah, that's the theory. We'll see whether it plays out in practice. But ultimately, he had to do something different because it's not working, and that isn't necessarily a focus or completely getting obsessed by base formations, but it's also personnel. And in bringing Lys Malou, Gibson and McLean into his 11 today, he is responding to the fact that the guys who've been playing thus far haven't really delivered, certainly not in terms of results. So over to those players now. If you're Ben Gibson, you must be chomping at the bit today. So it's up to him to prove that he belongs to be in Daniel Farke's Norwich 11 in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be interesting looking at that side, just how Norwich City go about constructing their chances today. Obviously, the 3-5-2 does essentially remove an attacking player, so to speak, in theory. It doesn't necessarily usually work like that in practice because of what the wing-backs offer. So there might be a bit more of an emphasis on Max Aarons and Brandon Williams to provide a bit more of an attacking edge today. Just finally, Pad, you kind of teed it up nicely there about how this game could go from a Norwich City perspective in the ideal situation. Obviously, they've conceded probably too early in a few of their matches again this season. We use that word competitive. That's going to be about keeping them in the game for long periods, particularly away from home, and then looking to hit something on the break, you would imagine, and to you hear it spoken about as like an ideal away performance. So do you see this being the place today that Norwich City get their first point or points on the board, perhaps depending how optimistic you are? It's very difficult, I think, at the moment to forecast a Norwich win, but you're going to put your head above the parapet and go for it.
Well, I don't think even if I summon all my optimism, I could predict a Norwich win. But I certainly think they can get a result here. The Everton keepers have just appeared. It's definitely not beyond the realm because I don't know. Maybe I'm seeing a slightly different game, but in all of these games, I have seen facets of play in these first 4 or 5, maybe the Man City game aside, when Norwich have, but for far too small a sample, it must be said, but have shown that they can cause teams problems at this level. They haven't been good, anywhere near good enough in either box. That's clearly obvious by 5 played, 0 wins, 0 draws, 5 defeats, and a already double figures goal deficit, negative goal deficit. So the bald statistics tell you they haven't been good enough, and there probably won't be too many outside of maybe the Norwich support who are going to be over there today, 1,600 or so, who probably do give them a chance of getting a result. But ultimately, if Norwich are going to be competitive this season, then it needs to happen. It needs to happen pretty swiftly, and this is the type of place, with the greatest respect to them. Yeah, obviously they are hoping for probably top 5, top 6. I would imagine is their aspirations around here, but they're still under Benitez, very much a work in progress. And if Norwich get the elements they need to get right in terms of defensively, in terms of competitiveness, in terms of carrying an attacking threat, and that probably is the question mark with this 11. It's a little bit concerned that maybe they'll be better without the ball, but will they offer enough going forward? But if all those elements come together, then yeah, I can definitely see Norwich getting a result here today. But a win might be pushing it slightly. But it's worth reiterating 2019, this very stadium, this very ground. Last time Norwich won on the road in the Premier League. And I do believe, if you believe in omens, it's 28 years to the day, the very day that a Norwich team came in and won 5-1. Efan Okoku got 4 goals, and that was a standout result for Norwich. So, they have done it before on this ground. So why can't they do it again? And who's going to be the Dennis Sherbeni? That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, let's hope somebody is, and gives us a little bit of optimism to go into. Paddy's going to spin around there, and you'll be able to see the Norwich fans just in that far corner. And that is the site that we'll leave you with as we head into our match coverage. Of course, Pinkin.com, the place to go. Dave Freezer on the live blog this afternoon. We'll have all the analysis and reaction to this game at Goodison Park today. Let's hope Norwich City can open their account in terms of points and give everyone a performance to impress. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.